Hey guys, it's Chris, and I'm on the road in Portland, Oregon, and I wanted to talk to you guys about the newest addition to my collection. That's right, it's Saturday, and I'm wearing the Seiko SKX013, though it says it's Sunday because the weekend, hard to tell. I just am really interested in giving you my perspective on this watch. It's something that gets discussed a lot on the internet, and there's certainly lots of comparisons between the 13 and the 07 or the 09 as far as size goes, but when I received this, it really kind of, stood out for quite a few reasons that I didn't ever hear spoken about. A lot of people just talk about how much they love the SKX and it's a real diver and it's ISO certified and it's so inexpensive. Those are all great things, but actually having it in my hand, on my wrist, makes me see some things that I hadn't heard discussed before, so I thought they'd pass them along to you. Alright, so the first thing you'll probably notice is I've got it on this Zulu strap. Not the best match. I thought it was a fun strap, multiple colors, I'll show you in a close-up, but it definitely has matted, sort of dark gray loops on here, which don't go with the highly polished SKX. So forgive me for the non-matching thing. But you'll also notice that I don't have it on the strap it came with. I did buy the rubber strap version. I wasn't super interested in the bracelet that came on it. For me, this kind of a watch, super casual, also for, the water, right, for diving. Not that I'm a big diver. In fact, I've never dove. I don't scuba. But I do go to places where I might go in a lake, might go in a pool, might go in someplace. This will stand up to that. It's a nice movement. It seems like it's all just fine. I really like the crown and the action of the crown. The screwing in and out of the crown feels extremely positive. On other watches with screw-down crowns I've had, it's a little hard to engage the threads, but with this watch, it's easy to catch them, it's easy to pull it back out. I feel like it's a positive connection. Also, moving in and out to set the time, I don't know if you can hear that. Very positive, right? I usually grab it with my fingernail in there. It's not something because of the crown guards that I can get easily with just my fingers, but doesn't feel like I'm breaking anything. Feels nice and positive, sets easily. You can back hack it, so to speak. When you set the time backwards, it will slow that seconds hand down so that you can try to get a reasonable amount of actual time, although that doesn't really bother me with a watch like this. This is a watch I'll wear in casual occasions when I'm out and about. I don't need that to-the-minute atomic clock going on my wrist. I'll let other folks talk about the history of the movement, other things. But more what's interesting to me is the watch itself, the wearing of the watch. I'm going to get it out of the way right up front. It wears super small. Now you might be saying, Chris, duh, it's the small one. I know. I think it's 37 millimeters, right? But I have other sub 40 millimeter watches. Heck, I have a Seiko Alpinist, only 1 millimeter bigger. Wears perfectly on my 7¼ inch wrist, I think. This wears super duper tiny. I don't know what it is about it. I think it might be the black bezel and the fact that the dial is so small, and somehow it tricks the eye into shrinking it down. Could be the lug-to-lug width. I'm not sure. It just wears really small on my wrist. Now, it doesn't help that I put it on the Zulu strap with these giant rings. It's kind of a mismatched strap, if I'm being honest, so that probably wasn't the smartest choice if I wanted the watch to look a little bigger. In fact, when I made the choice between the 09, the 07, and the 13, I went with the smaller one because I thought, geez, those others might be just too big on my wrist. I think that's not the case. Certainly with the black bezel, maybe not the the Pepsi bezel, maybe they're going to wear a little bit smaller than you typically expect. So if you're worried about the size, this is teeny. Can you see that? Small on my wrist. It's not like it's embarrassingly small. It doesn't look like I'm wearing a child's watch, but it is smaller than I expected. Now, that's probably the only real negative that I can talk about, certainly at this price point. I love the ability for it to work with other straps. It even has a little bevel inside the case, so you can thread straps through, specifically NATO straps, probably very easily. Seiko does that on a lot of their cases. The finish of the case is pretty good. You can hear that 120 click bezel. Works great. Feels really nice to use. And in fact, it's something that I found myself fiddling with for the first day that I owned it more than I expected. I just kept twisting it because it felt so nice. And on my example, the indexes line up real well. I read a lot about the fact that the bezel doesn't quite line up with the chapter ring, which doesn't quite line up with the face of the watch. nothing I'm going to notice when I look at it, and at the price point, something probably that you'd expect. What I wouldn't expect at the price point is a couple of things. One, the lume. The lume is mind-blowingly good. Like when I'm driving, wearing the watch, not really paying attention to it, but the sun will be in the daylight charging my watch, so to speak, and then go under an overpass, or I go into an underground parking garage, and it's just blam, it's really hidden. Same thing when you walk from outside to inside, that lume is really jumping off of there. Now, it's that Seiko lume, which everyone says is so good. I don't think it's any better than, say, on my Alpinist, but what it is more. Those pips of lume are very big, and so it really has a nice, bright lume to it. What else can I talk about the face of the dial? Well, the hands are super legible, as you'd expect. I don't really miss the little lollipop on the back end of the larger watches. That is the main difference, is the seconds hand. The hands are slightly different overall, but the seconds hand is the most different. On the back of it, on the larger watches, the 07, the 09, it has a perfectly round lollipop of lume that goes around. This has more of what are you going to call it? I don't even know what. But when you're looking at the dial, a thing I didn't expect that's super pleasing to me is that the chapter ring is nicely dished, pipe hand style, kind of just dives in there, which I really like to see. I mean, it adds a little bit of depth to an otherwise perfectly flat dial, right? Everything's painted or printed on. But the thing that really made me actually keep the watch, quite frankly, when I got it, I thought, maybe it's too small. The very edge of the crystal, the Hardlex crystal in this case, the flat edge just goes down, right? It's just carved down perfectly. It magnifies those indices, the pips of lume all around, but only the edge of them. So you see like a perfect circle printed on the dial, and then on the crystal, just a little half moon where that is, that's a little bit bigger. And as you move things around, the half moon moves, and you see different parts of it. Sometimes it connects, it overlaps, just the way the light plays with it and the refraction happens. It's really, really cool. It's something I didn't expect, something that elevates it above just a pure tool into something that's also, catches the light and is kind of fun to look at. I'd say it's that bevel around the crystal and the hands themselves. The outer part of the hands are polished to an extremely high luster so that around the lume on the inside, when they catch the light, it really does look quite beautiful. That said, the rest of the case, not a lot to speak about. The sides and the back are high polished. The top is actually a brushed finish, but it's not deeply brushed. It's not super matte. You're not looking at deep brushing. At the top of the lugs here do have some brushing to it to sort of offset, but it's barely contrasting. It's still a pretty shiny watch overall. And then the side of the dive bezel, of course, so that you can grip it, but it's got that sort of double coin edge. Is that what you'd call it? I bet there's a name for it. Comments below. What do you call this? I'll look it up as soon as I'm done as well. But good for gripping, but also, plays with the light, makes it very nice and shiny. All right, so that's it. My quick overview of the SKX013. A great watch at a great price point. Nothing that you're going to be disappointed in if you get it, I don't think. Certainly not if you keep in mind what it is. A tool watch for divers with a storied history and legacy. Something that's iconic and built to a very inexpensive price point. In fact, as long as that last part is part of your thought process, I think you'd be stoked. I know I am. So thanks so much for tuning in. I'm going to go out into the rain, see if I can make this thing prove its mettle. I know the rain's not going to do it. It'll be just fine. Anyway, thanks for watching.